Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. It's Thursday, which means our new day for buy sell is here. In today's video, we are going to go over 5 buy low candidates as well as 6 candidates to sell high on and take advantage of to get some better assets as we finish off the season. If you guys are new to the channel or if you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate your support on my road to 100 subscribers. It allows me to do what I love so I can keep bringing you the content that you love. If you have any trade questions, please drop those down below or reach out to me on the Sleeper app. I am available there as well. With all of that out of the way, let's get into week 9's buy sell. We are going to start with my buys, and the first one I have was actually a sell for me 4 weeks ago. But after 3 busts and a buy in his last 5, I am back on Mike Williams. Owners are probably wanting off of the ride, so it is time to capitalize on him now. Williams was banged up for most of that poor stretch, and he should be fully removed from those injuries. The other issue that Williams has had is that Justin Herbert has looked like a shell of his former self over the last couple games. I expect Herbert to do better moving forward, continually improve, and that is going to help with Williams' value. Big Mike gets the Giants, the Chiefs, and the Texans in weeks 14 to 16. So he's got prime matchups during the season's most critical point. He has shown week winning upside, which is something that every championship team needs and is usually very hard to come by. He gets Minnesota's poor excuse for a secondary next week. So if we get to there, owners are going to see that and probably want to hold on to him, and it's going to be too late. So now is the time to strike. If I can move someone like Brandon Cooks coming off of a big game for Williams, who has been faltering as of late, even if I have to sweeten the pot a little bit to get it done, that is a move worth making. My next buy is someone that owners have either potentially forgot about or maybe are just undervaluing now because by the time week 10 rolls around, he's going to have missed the last 3 weeks. That is Antonio Brown. If his owner is needing a win this week, or if he's just sick of seeing him sitting on the bench doing nothing, this is a player I am targeting. Tampa Bay is going to continue to air it out and roll up the scoreboard with points. He has looked like Tom Brady's favorite target so far very often, and I don't see that changing. Brown is averaging over 16 points a game, which is 6th best among wideouts. If I can move him for someone like Tyler Lockett coming off a big game, or even Cortland Sutton, who has been consistent but now has to deal with Jerry Jeudy sapping up targets, that is a great opportunity. Brown is going to pick off right where he left off. So before the owner realizes that in his next 4 matchups, he gets Washington, Indy, the Giants, and Atlanta, make the move and at least see what he would cost you. The next player that I want more shares of is Justin Herbert, and clearly I am not giving up on the Chargers. With 2 duds and a bye in his last 3 weeks, there's never going to be a better opportunity to buy low on Herbert. He's had his bye already and is still the QB 10 on the season, so he's likely not going to be cheap. We already talked about LA's schedule, and he already has 3 games with just a single touchdown, and I doubt that he does that 3 more times the rest of the way, so those weeks where he kills you should be fewer and far between. As far as points per game for quarterbacks, he's just behind players like Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, and Derek Carr, and he is a much more valuable asset than any of those guys, especially when you consider the offense that he is in and the plays that the Chargers run. If you have any of those 3 and you can add a little bit on top to make it a deal, that is something I would jump at. Next up, we have Stefon Diggs. Now, he's certainly rebounded over his last couple games, but that does not mean that his buy low window is completely closed. After an excellent matchup with Miami that was probably circled on most owners' calendars as the game he was going to get right, he had just 40 yards and a score. So there is still hope that you can get him at a decent price. With matchups against Jacksonville, the Jets, and Indy coming up, however, that is not going to last very long. He is right now outside the top 20 in points per game for receivers. You do not need to be a genius to see that right now that is not elite. My eyes and Josh Allen both disagree with that sentiment, the latter being something that actually matters. Allen knows that for Buffalo to be at its best this season, Diggs needs to be too. And I think that they show that in the second half of the season. Michael Pittman and Robert Woods are two players that are right next to Diggs as far as wide receiver points scored per game. They're both also coming off a couple big weeks of their own. So if you can sell those for someone like Diggs, that would be a huge upgrade. The next player on my list is Adrian Peterson. There's been a ton of debate raging about what his value is right now, so I want to give my opinion on the subject. I value Peterson as a mid to low end RB2 who's going to have touchdown upside. He's going to play on a team that is a solid offense and is going to continue to score points. Tennessee is going to change their approach. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They cannot continue to be a top 3 team as far as run heaviness in this offense. However, they have A.J. Brown on the outside. Eventually, maybe, sometime, they're going to get Julio Jones back as well, and that's going to open things up for Peterson. And let's be honest, he's probably going to be 4 yards and a cloud of dust right up the middle, and that is just fine. The Titans are still going to want to take pressure off of Tannehill and open up the passing game by relying on the run early. So I cannot see a scenario where Peterson isn't racking up at least 12 to 15 touches a game. And with that type of volume, he has value. If he's able to score 7 touchdowns with Detroit, which he was last year, I can easily see him getting 5 or 6 to finish off this season for the Titans. When you look forward to weeks 14, he gets Jacksonville, and in the all-important week 17, he has Miami. So those are juicy matchups in critical games as well. Let's now move on to my sells for week 9. These are players who I think are either on the way down or have already reached their peak, and this is the perfect time to trade assets. We're going to start with Boston Scott. And everyone raise your hand if you thought that coming out of the backfield after Miles Sanders' injury, Boston Scott was going to be the RB1 in Philly. No one? Yeah? Didn't think so. This was a huge surprise to owners, and I think that when we look forward, we don't really know what Philadelphia's backfield is going to bring. He could certainly continue to bring RB2 numbers for the next couple weeks, especially this week against the Chargers in an awesome matchup. Or they could give it to Kenneth Gainwell 12 times like they did in the fourth quarter last week against Detroit. And Jordan Howard is there. He had 2 touchdowns last week as well. So with this mess of a backfield, I'm going to try to get rid of Scott for what I can. It is unlikely that he has a ton of value to owners, but if there is a Scott truther in your league, or you can use him as a bargaining chip to add on top to get a bigger deal done, you want to make that as quick as you can. The next player that I am trying to unload if I can is Tyler Lockett. When Russell Wilson went down, I preached the need to get rid of this guy before the wheels came off. So you're welcome. However, if you ignored my advice and decided to hold on to him, Tyler Lockett believes in second chances. Do yourself a favor and don't make the same mistake twice. Sure, he had a nice game, a great game last week. For the 5% of owners who played him, of course. I was never a big fan of this roller coaster, but if it was your thing for whatever reason, now is the time to get off of it. Between his boom games, sandwiched there in the middle, are wide receiver finishes of 66, 75, 40, 66, and 75. And no, those are not typos. When he is good, he is absolutely great. But when he's not, he completely kills you. And that is the problem. Somehow he is still the wide receiver 20 on the season. So you can probably still get someone to bite on him. Someone like Emmanuel Sanders or Chase Claypool would be big wins if you can swing it. The next player I'm selling is Alvin Kamara. And I know this may come as a bit of a shock, so let me start with this. Alvin Kamara is a stud. He is an RB1 the rest of the season, without question, barring an injury, of course. My concerns, however, cannot be ignored. First, the Saints added Mark Ingram, which is no small deal, and I think that we aren't paying enough attention to that fact. I believe that Ingram is going to help ease the load on Kamara because he's seen a significant amount of work over the last couple weeks, and the Saints need to keep Kamara healthy for the long run. He had 8 touches in his first week back, and that was without a full week of practice, so I cannot see him getting any less than that moving forward. That loss of volume alone is critical for Kamara because he is averaging just 3.6 yards per carry. Secondly, Taysom Hill is now behind center, and while I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing for overall the Saints offense and what they do, it certainly is for Kamara. Hill is going to vulture at least a couple goal line carries from Kamara because he always does. He is also going to likely be less effective getting the ball to Kamara out in space where he is most dangerous. In Hill's first 3 starts, Kamara had 3 catches for a total of 7 yards. And no, that's not a typo either. Alvin did not have over 100 yards in any game that Hill started. As the current RB6, if I can go and get Najee Harris or Zeke Elliott for him, it is worth the swap. This next player is someone who I just think has reached their peak as far as trade value, and it would be better to offload him and load up elsewhere. And that is Elijah Mitchell of the San Francisco 49ers. He has been absolutely awesome when he's been healthy, but that is problem number 1. He's already shown a propensity to get injured. The other issue is that he is doing all of this successfully right now with all of the other backs on San Francisco currently injured. That is not going to be the case forever. J. Michael Hasty is going to be coming back soon. Jeff Wilson is going to be practicing. And Mike Shanahan isn't exactly the guy who just has a workhorse back. He has always been known for his ability to switch out running backs pretty seamlessly in that offense, with the hot hand being the preferred option. Mitchell is a 6th round pick, so there isn't a ton of investment in here, and there is not a long-term tie to him for this team. I haven't even mentioned 3rd round pick Trey Sermon, and the 49ers didn't spend a top 88 pick on him for no reason. Right now, Mitchell is likely viewed as a solid RB2 by at least a couple owners in your league, so go ahead and sell him for a different one. Both Damian Harris and Josh Jacobs are right in his point per game range, and I would take either of those guys instead of hoping that Mitchell keeps up his current pace. The next guy on my list is Adam Thielen, and it physically hurts my heart to put him here, but we don't get emotional in fantasy football. And if you do, probably cost you some wins. Thielen's agent wasn't talking out of nowhere, and what he's speaking is the truth. While he may not want out of Minnesota right now, maybe he should. At least as long as Clint Kubiak is out there calling plays. Justin Jefferson is still the alpha here, and he's going to continue to see a ton of targets. If Mike Zimmer has his way, Dalvin Cook is going to run the ball 30 times a game. Right now, as the current wide receiver 15 who has already had his bye, Adams' value should be substantial. So sell it for a more reliable offense with a capable offensive coordinator. I would take either of the healthy Bucs pass catchers right now, or if you can get CeeDee Lamb from the Cowboys, that would be an awesome sell too. My final sell may make me sound crazy, but hear me out. Leonard Fournette has been incredible this year, and it's time to let that work for your advantage one final time by selling him off for an ascending asset. This team is going to always be pass first with Tom Brady at the controls. The Bucs valuing Ronald Jones so highly up as the trade deadline was coming and passing is no small deal either. After Fournette gets cupcakes in Washington and the Giants coming out of his bye, the schedule takes a turn for the worse. In weeks 12 to 16, when you are fighting for your playoff lives and pushing for that chip, Fournette gets matchups against Indy, Buffalo, New Orleans, and Carolina. all negative matchups. Atlanta is the only saving grace in that entire stretch, and that is in week 13. Go get someone like James Robinson, Darrell Henderson Jr., or even Nick Chubb. They're all within his points per game average and could be a steal for you guys if you can pull it off. And with that, we end week 9's buy sell. As always, drop any questions for me down below. I would love to help you out with potential trades. Reach out to me on Sleeper. I am available there to help you out as well. If you're new or haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe and help me on my road to my first 100 subscribers. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opatz, and we'll see you next time.